Welcome in, everyone, and a special welcome to you, the listener who actually sent in the materials for today's custom deep dive. We are really excited to dig into this.
Yeah, thanks for sending this our way. It's a fascinating stack of research.
It totally is. And we're looking at a concept that the sources have dubbed the end of the back office.
Right.
And our mission today is to explore how the global outsourcing industry is just being radically dismantled, really from the inside out. And we want to figure out what this accelerating shift means for, the future of white-collar work, because it affects all of us. So, okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at this wild central paradox from the text.
A massive paradox, yeah.
You've got companies that are intentionally automating their own human workforce out of existence, but they're doing it while simultaneously increasing their revenue.
What's fascinating here is framing this not just as like a routine technological evolution. This is a fundamental rewriting of the economics of human labor. I mean, for decades, right, the global corporate strategy relied entirely on geographic labor arbitrage.
Which basically means
Moving cognitive or administrative tasks to regions where human capital was just cheaper,
Right.
like sending work overseas.
Right.
But what we are observing in these notes is a transition away from human capital entirely. The arbitrage is no longer geographic. It is strictly computational.
Wow. Computational arbitrage.
Exactly. We are moving from paying less for a human somewhere else to paying virtually nothing for an algorithm everywhere.
And that computational shift, it is perfectly illustrated by the case study in the materials, the one regarding Hunar.AI.
Yeah, the recruiting startup.
Right. Based in India.
Yeah.
So we are analyzing a company operating in an industry that has historically relied on just the sheer volume of human communication to generate revenue.
Recruiting is traditionally a numbers game.
Exactly. Dialing for dollars. The traditional metric for growth in that sector has always been headcount. To increase your market share, make more placements, you inevitably need more recruiters making more calls.
You need more desks, more phones.
Yep. But Hunar.AI executed this radical pivot. They opted to replace those human callers with software to handle the outreach and the candidate screening.
And the underlying mechanics of that pivot, they really dictate this new economic reality we're talking about. Because when a business relies on human labor, scaling operations involves massive systemic friction.
Oh, tons of friction.
Right. Sourcing candidates, managing turnover, navigating employment law.
Don't forget maintaining physical office infrastructure.
Exactly. All of that creates a hard ceiling on profit margins. But software completely removes that operational friction.
It just wipes it out.
Yeah. Once the initial development and integration costs are absorbed, the marginal cost of making 10,000 screening calls instead of 100 is functionally zero.
It was zero.
The linear relationship between human effort and corporate growth is just broken.
And the specific metrics backing up that lack of friction, they are striking in the text. I mean, Hunar.AI went from a headcount of 65 human employees down to 45.
And they aren't stopping there.
No, their executive team is targeting a further reduction to just 25 personnel.
Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Despite systematically slashing their workforce, their revenue is scaling upward.
Which breaks every traditional business rule.
It totally does. They are actively dismantling the foundational human architecture of their own business. And the market is financially rewarding them for it.
Because the software margins so vastly outperform the human overhead.
Yep.
This is the practical, unvarnished application of a strategy framed in the text as, quote, cannibalizing yourself before someone else does.
Cannibalize yourself. It's aggressive.
It's very aggressive.
Right.
From a legacy business perspective, intentionally tearing down a functioning operational model seems completely counterintuitive.
Right, because leaders are taught that bigger is better.
Exactly. Business leaders are conditioned to view headcount as a proxy for success. Look how many people work for me.
Right.
However, in a hyper-accelerated tech landscape, preemptive self-destruction is the only rational survival mechanism.
How?
Well, a company carrying the financial weight of 65 salaries, benefits, and administrative overhead, they simply cannot compete on pricing or speed with a new market entrant operating entirely on automated systems.
Oh, I see. That zero legacy competitor is the existential threat driving the cannibalization.
Precisely.
Because if the leadership at Hunar.AI hesitates to automate, just because they want to protect their existing organizational chart, they leave a massive vulnerability in the market.
A huge gap.
A new startup will launch tomorrow, offering the exact same screening service at a fraction of the cost, because they never had to lease office space or build an HR department for a floor of human callers in the first place.
They start lean.
Right.
Yep.
So Hunar.AI has to become its own disruptor just to maintain its market position. They're effectively burning their own ships to move forward.
It's a fascinating microeconomic case study, but the implications compound exponentially when we apply this logic to the broader outsourcing ecosystem.
Right, because we're not just talking about one startup.
No, we are not just talking about isolated startups finding clever new efficiencies. We are looking at the foundational logic of a massive global industry being fundamentally challenged at the highest levels.
Yeah, seeing a startup with 45 people execute this pivot is one thing. But when you look at the macro scale detailed in these notes, the math becomes incredibly sobering.
Very sobering.
We are examining an Indian outsourcing economy valued at $300 billion.
$300 billion.
$300 billion, representing roughly 6 million jobs.
That's staggering.
This is an entire economic empire built entirely on human beings sitting at desks performing the cognitive, administrative, and technical heavy lifting for corporations globally.
Right.
We are talking about the primary economic engine for millions of middle-class families.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the phrase "the end of the back office" starts to carry significant macroeconomic weight.
Yeah, it's not just a catchy title.
Not at all. For the last 30 years, the global back office was the unquestioned engine room of multinational corporations. It dictated urban development. It shaped university degree pipelines.
It built entire cities, basically.
Right, massive technological hubs in regions like Bangalore and New Delhi. The sudden obsolescence of that human engine room represents a structural shock to the global economy that we really have not seen since the decline of physical manufacturing in the West.
And you see that structural shock happening right now. It's in the quarterly reports of the industry giants mentioned in the sources.
The big legacy players.
Yes. Companies like Tata and Infosys, they are visibly shrinking. The notes highlight that Tata's headcount is already down by 20,000 personnel from its peak.
20,000 jobs.
20,000 jobs eliminated in a single company. And this isn't a routine quarterly restructuring or a slight trimming of the fat.
No.
This is a massive contraction in an entity that has historically measured its success and its market dominance by how many thousands of new graduates it could absorb every single year.
And a 20,000-person drop in a massive legacy firm like that signals the ultimate decoupling of output growth from human headcount.
Decoupling, right.
Historically, economists and corporate leaders have operated under this assumption that technological advancement destroys some legacy jobs, sure, but it inevitably creates even more jobs to manage, service, and integrate the new technology.
I've always heard that.
Yeah.
Technology creates more jobs than it destroys.
Exactly. But the data coming out of Tata suggests that historical safety net has been entirely severed.
Oh.
They are reducing their workforce while maintaining their operational output.
See, we've relied on that new technology creates more jobs theory for decades, mostly just to assuage our own anxieties about automation.
It's
It
comforting.
was the standard comforting narrative.
Yeah.
But if a titan like Tata...
And they practically invented the modern model of scaling through human capital.
Exactly. If they're successfully shrinking their workforce without sacrificing their market position, it completely shatters that narrative.
It does.
This isn't a speculative conversation about what artificial intelligence might be capable of in a decade. This contraction is actively happening today. It's recorded in public financial filings.
And the driving force behind that contraction is an aggressive, relentless commoditization of specialized skills.
Commoditization.
Right. When the financial cost of producing cognitive labor drops below a certain threshold, it ceases to be viewed as a specialized profession requiring human nuance.
It becomes a utility.
A simple background utility, optimized purely for cost efficiency.
And that brings us to the most chilling economic comparison we found in the research. The realization that an entry-level coding job now costs the exact same as electricity.
That line really stops you in your tracks.
It does. When the act of writing code, a skill that has been heavily incentivized and culturally elevated as the ultimate modern profession for a generation, is reduced to a fraction of a cent per computation.
The human worker is economically boxed out.
You simply cannot sustain a human livelihood, pay a mortgage, or participate in a local economy on the wages of ambient electricity.
You really can't. Framing cognitive output as a utility cost is a profound paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Think about it. We do not negotiate salaries with our electrical grid.
No?
Nor do we offer it career progression. We simply pay for the kilowatt hours consumed.
Right.
When logical analysis, basic programming, and administrative data processing are priced identically to keeping the lights on in the server room, the economic floor falls out from under millions of white-collar professionals.
Their value is just gone.
Their core economic value has been reduced to a rounding error in a server hosting bill.
And the reality of that economic floor collapsing is already visible on the ground. We are seeing computer science graduates in New Delhi ending up driving for Uber Eats.
It's a stark image.
These are individuals who successfully navigated complex technical degree programs specifically to secure their place in the modern digital economy. And the entry-level tech roles they spent years training for are vanishing into software infrastructure,
Leaving highly educated, technically proficient workers to rely on the localized physical gig economy just to survive.
just to survive, delivering takeout.
This raises an important question regarding the systemic failure of our current workforce development models.
Okay.
The displacement of these highly educated individuals signifies that the upskill dream is actively hitting a wall.
Hitting a huge wall.
We have to rigorously analyze why that universally accepted advice, which has dictated educational policy for decades, is suddenly proving completely inadequate in the face of this specific technological shift.
For the last 20 years, the standard prescriptive advice for any worker facing technological displacement has been to learn to code.
Or transition into data analytics.
Right. The assumption was that if you kept climbing the ladder of cognitive complexity, you would always stay ahead of automation.
You'd always be safe.
The entire modern safety net was built on the fundamental belief that physical, repetitive labor was vulnerable to machines, while cognitive labor was a uniquely human domain that would always command a premium salary.
But the computer science graduates delivering food vividly demonstrate that cognitive labor is no longer a guaranteed safe haven.
It's definitely not.
The bottom rungs of the upskill ladder have been completely sawed off.
Sawed right off.
If a machine can execute basic programming or data analysis for the cost of running a server, acquiring those entry-level skills no longer provides an entry point into the broader digital economy.
The entry point is gone.
The social contract of higher education, the promise that technical proficiency guarantees economic stability, is being rewritten without our consent.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Right, let's bring it back to the audience.
Because it is incredibly tempting to look at a $300 billion industry in India, or CS graduates navigating traffic in New Delhi, and view this as a geographically isolated phenomenon.
It's easy to say, oh, that's happening over there.
Exactly. But the nature of the global back office is entirely borderless. The technological capability that allows Tata to automate 20,000 roles in India is the exact same capability that can automate administrative, legal, financial, or medical record-keeping roles in London, New York, Tokyo, or wherever you happen to be listening from right now.
The barrier to replacing cognitive labor is no longer tied to offshore logistics, language barriers, or time zones. It is purely technological.
And the cost of that technology is approaching zero.
Precisely. Any role across any industry where the primary output consists of processing digital information is currently subject to the exact same margin pressures that are dismantling Hunar.AI's human call center.
Nobody is immune.
The concept of an outsourced back office is expanding to include anyone sitting behind a screen manipulating data.
We are witnessing a universal pivot toward maximizing output while minimizing human headcount. The operational blueprint currently being drawn up by these outsourcing giants will inevitably become the standard operating procedure for every sector reliant on desk-based cognitive work.
It has to, just from a competitive standpoint.
Exactly. So let's concisely recap the trajectory of this massive shift based on the materials you provided. We started with the micro view of Hunar.AI, a startup making the strategically necessary choice to cannibalize its own workforce.
Which proved that replacing human volume with software dramatically increases revenue by eliminating operational friction.
Right. And then zooming out to the macro view, we observed that isolated efficiency scaling up to shrink a $300 billion global back office industry.
Legacy titans like Tata shedding tens of thousands of jobs clearly indicates that the era of scaling corporate operations by adding human headcount is decisively ending.
The decoupling of revenue growth from job creation is no longer a theoretical debate. It is an established economic reality today.
And finally, we confronted the stark reality of the human cost.
Yeah, that was heavy.
When the economic value of entry-level coding drops to the cost of ambient electricity, the traditional promise of education and upskilling collapses.
The image of technical graduates delivering takeout serves as a stark warning. The cognitive jobs they were promised have been completely absorbed by the infrastructure they were trained to build.
The upskill safety net has failed precisely where it was supposed to be strongest.
Exactly.
Analyzing this landscape requires us to look beyond the immediate job losses and consider the long-term structural integrity of our industries.
Where does this lead us?
Well, building on the reality that these entry-level cognitive roles are being permanently handed over to software, I want to leave you with a lingering question to consider. One that extends the implications of everything we've discussed today.
Let's hear it.
If entry-level coding, basic administrative data processing, and foundational analytical work are now performed exclusively by software for the cost of electricity, how will the next generation of senior experts ever be trained?
Oh, wow.
Right. Every master architect, senior software engineer, and seasoned executive develop their nuanced understanding of their field by spending years executing that exact entry-level work.
That's how you learn the ropes.
It is through that initial friction that human intuition and high-level judgment are formed. So if we completely remove that foundational stepping stone from the global economy, because it is cheaper to use a machine, where will the human leaders of tomorrow's industries come from?
That is an incredibly profound problem. If the training ground is entirely automated away, the pipeline for human mastery is just broken.
You can't skip straight to the top.
How do you ever produce a master if no one is allowed to be an apprentice? That is something every corporate leader should be deeply concerned about right now.
Absolutely.
Well, you have given us, and definitely given our listener, so much to mull over today. To our listener, thank you. Thank you for bringing us such a deeply thought-provoking, paradigm-shifting stack of sources to explore.
It was a great read.
This is exactly why we love doing these custom explorations. It forces us all to look up from our daily routines and see the massive tectonic plates shifting right beneath our feet. Keep that insane curiosity alive. Keep looking for those aha moments and keep sharing them. Till next time, take care and keep exploring.